Well, Rockingham is back, and we're back on the tune-up. I've got Marcus van der Lee back. I've got Christian Herzog returning for a second week in a row. My name is Zach Defelsky here on my YouTube, Zachary MT, and we're delighted to be back with you once again. Episode 11 coming your way. And how about we dive right into it, guys? Rockingham has made its long-awaited return after 1 years, I think, right? 2004, and it's back in NASCAR, not in the Cup Series, but we got a delightful truck race and a hard-fought Xfinity race to digest that happened on Friday and Saturday of Easter weekend. And boy, it was a sight to see having that track back in action, newly repaved. The stands are no longer in. Turns 1 and 2 are on the backstretch, but what we did have was a sold-out main grandstand, and everyone was highly anticipating the return to Rockingham. We got treated to do two very good races. And Marcus, you're back on the show after missing last week, and I'm curious what you thought. You watched both those races in full. Your opening thoughts of
Yep.
seeing Rockingham back.
Well, first off, I was really impressed with the truck race. I really thought it was going to be dirty air, and then it wasn't dirty air. It was like you could early on in the race, you saw it was Garcia and I forgot who else. Like Garcia and Lane Riggs were going at it. I'm pretty sure there was I think it was Ben Rhodes up there before he had a problem. There was all that, and then at the end was really fun because you had a fuel lottery, and we don't get many fuel lotteries in NASCAR anymore with stages and stuff. So that was really unique to see. Watching Tyler Ankrum, first time since I was fresh out of middle school, winning a truck
Wow.
race.
Yeah, first time since Kentucky in what, 2019, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah, and
he is
he
back.
won on last time he won. So for reference, Jimmy Johnson just came off his first ever winless year.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex were all like absolutely dusting everyone. That's how long ago that was. Now only Denny Hamlin's really doing it now. Yeah, it was really cool to see Ankrum return to victory lane on fuel mileage too. And I will always argue, people will say, "Oh, it's Mickey, it's really lucky." I will always argue, fuel mileage takes talent. It takes a lot of discipline from the driver.
It sure does,
And
especially at a track like Rockingham, right? I mean, you gotta wrestle
yeah,
the truck into those corners, and you have to try and maintain speed. I remember sitting on the edge of my seat for that fuel mileage finish, and I do want to toss over to Chris. We can talk about fuel mileage in both these races. We're gonna focus on trucks now just for the moment, but Chris, you love Rockingham, and it's fun for people in our age group to see it back in action. Technically, I at least was alive the last time NASCAR raced at Rockingham, but I wasn't really speaking, and it's just cool to see it in action. I think we had two series that had worthy racing products put on display, and you had a lot of, I think, instances of classical NASCAR racing in both the truck and Xfinity. I don't know if that's what you thought, Chris, but I feel like that's what you want to see out of Return to Rockingham.
Definitely on the truck series side, that was the first time we've seen the trucks really be the best series of the weekend. Xfinity also had fuel mileage, but it kind of made more losers than winners with that result. But series have not raced at Rockingham in over 20 years, except the truck series, which had I think two back-to-back dates,
Yep.
2011, 2012 ish, and
2012, 2013, I believe it was.
2012, 2013. And even then, the crowd was iffy back then, but I think with the advent of Xfinity really showing a raw racing product and with the downs of the Cup Series at short track level, it really just made a great combination for this weekend.
You know what I
And
loved
I
is
do,
that these drivers on both the trucks and Xfinity side had to kind of learn a new racetrack. I don't think there was many drivers in those fields besides your Casey Canes and stuff like that have actually ran competitively there previously. And these drivers had to make the most of their practice, which they got, and they had to kind of figure out how these cars and trucks act. Rockingham is such a unique track. I always love ovals that are unique. We've had our cookie cutter SMI ovals and stuff like that on the schedules now for 20, 30 something years now, but I will always give a place to unique ovals on the NASCAR schedule, and if Rockingham is gonna start making a slow drift back into NASCAR, maybe even the Cup Series in the future, we'll get into that. But I love a unique oval, and then Marcus, I did hear you want to chime in on something further.
Yeah, I just I really hate to take away from the truck race, but the broadcast.
Hmm.
The only good thing for me, the two good things that came from that broadcast were Carson Hocevar. He showed he has potential. And then the other good thing is I really do appreciate Tyler Ankrum ignoring the front stretch interview and trying to go to victory
Yeah,
lane. Granted, he hasn't won, like, nobody there has won at Rockingham before. Matt Crafton, I think, is the only truck guy that raced Rockingham before. So, I don't think really any of them knew where victory lane was. So I think Ankrum just tried to escape the front stretch interview and just try to do victory lane. So I applaud him for that. Good job, Tyler.
I'm glad you brought it up, Marcus. I think that is something we ought to talk about while we're on it. The level of broadcasting. Actually, I think I heard Alan Bestwick talked about this over the weekend, or at least I heard a clip of him talking about it.
Yeah.
And oh, we lost Marcus there. I don't know.
I'm still
Yeah, we
here.
can hear you. All right, we're good. But both the broadcast, Fox and the CW, Fox who cover the trucks, CW who cover Xfinity, they were not at the track, and I presume they were both in Charlotte. I think definitely Fox's. That's where their remote studio is, and Charlotte's only an hour and change, maybe 2 hours away from Rockingham.
Well, I
And
think actually Fox was at the track this weekend, if I
yeah,
remember correctly. Hocevar was saying that he was there during that day.
well, I know that Fox was in the studio when they were broadcasting Rockingham. As far as I could tell, they were in a not booth at Rockingham, and the
Mm.
same goes for CW. And it's just, I mean, it's 2025. I think remote broadcasting had become a thing thanks to COVID, but that's 5 years removed from now. And remote broadcasting has so many negatives that I think far outweigh the positives. When you look at the fact that these announcers, the on-air talent, are at the mercy of the camera feeds they're shown, so they essentially don't see anything more than what we see on TV. Don't you agree that part of being, an announcer is that
Hmm.
being at the event, you're supposed to be able to see more than what the camera shows, so you can add further context to what the fans are seeing. I myself am a broadcast announcer right now. I've commentated for ESPN Plus. I am at every single venue that the sports are at. I see stuff that happen that are not shown on camera, and that's just a big thing that is necessary for these broadcasts. And we've had this conversation over and over again. We've seen it time and time where the Fox does not send their truck broadcasters to the track, and now the CW has been kind of doing it as well. I guess budget constraints, or they just want to save a couple extra
So
cents, but yeah.
the CW, I know the reason for that is NASCAR made a new state-of-the-art facility, like a media facility. So I believe that's like where the Tubi channel is run out of. Is that little area that the CW broadcasters go to. But yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, like trying to save a couple bucks driving an hour up the road, it's really ridiculous to think about. And the thing to add on to the truck announcers being away from the racetrack, the camera angles are horrible in those races. So they don't even see, they barely see like one or two trucks per frame. It's really, really not it, honestly. I'm kind of wishing that someone tried to get the truck rights instead of Fox, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the point we're at now. And I think CW started off really good. CW is still pretty good, besides the fact that they're not at the track, but they still do a decent job at what they do.
Yeah, everyone, I mean, I've been on the CW bandwagon since the beginning of the season. I still wish they were at the track. I remember that left a bad taste in my mouth once I first saw that they were not at a track for a race, and that
I
had
think
me
it was
kind of
Homestead was the first race they
Yeah.
weren't.
And to your point, Marcus, I mean, NASCAR's building, these state-of-the-art remote broadcasting facilities, but I gotta wonder, and I'll pose this question to you, Chris, is this would this have happened had COVID not occurred? And we're not going to get on the tangent of everything that's happened because of COVID, but there's a lot of cause and effects of COVID, and I have to wonder if they would be at the track had COVID not allowed the opportunity for development of these remote broadcast facilities.
I think they just would have followed the trend. If other sports were doing this kind of thing, then they'd definitely consider it. But if this wasn't presented to them, I don't think they would have taken the bait for this. And it's just such a shame the way it's done now because it's just taken that much more. out of the broadcast. And the announcers themselves, not only are you there watching the broadcast for the product that it's presenting, but you're also watching it for the announcers. It's kind of like the modern day, or like the broadcasts are like old school streams. You're watching for the reaction. You, as the broadcaster, are trying to create that moment, create that energy for the fans. And when you're not able to be there in person to catch the things that cameras don't show, to not be able to provide that live reaction even before the camera pans over, then it's just reducing that much tension between the product and the viewer.
And I
Mhm.
was getting ready to hear what you wanted to say, Chris, because I remember you had some thoughts on it when we were talking, during the race weekend in the group chat and stuff. And it's a conversation that we can go on and on more and more about. And for what it is, though, I feel like it's going to be something that we're just going to keep seeing over and over. I don't think they'll ever actually force them to be at the track, and I think they'll continue to broadcast remotely as long as it's a viable option, especially if they've poured money into these facilities for it. But there's a big difference, I think, from being at the track versus being remote. And 10 times out of 10, I will take myself to the track to broadcast. If I have to fund it out of my own pocket, I will be there and I will do whatever I can to be at the track. I don't want to be broadcasting from a almost the same view as what people watching in their living rooms have. They have more
Yeah,
camera feeds in front of them because of different uh, TV screens and computer monitors, but not much. They can't look out the window when they're in the remote studios seeing what's happening on the track. And so as a result, they don't know when a wreck happens until one of their camera operators pans to it. So, I mean,
I know.
yeah, I digress. I'll let you add on, Marcus.
Yeah, that's the appeal. I think like that's why Dale Jr. left NBC is he wanted to be in the booth. He wanted to be at the racetrack. He just felt like it had something to be there. He left that, so at least we know that Prime and TNT will all be at the track. We'll get to see them every for the 10 weeks that we have
I
them.
won't believe it till I
Uh,
see it, but yes, I think they will be.
I think that's why Junior went to TNT and Prime. So I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see. Well, the first race they do, I won't be able to watch the broadcast because I'll actually be at their 600. But I'm sure Junior Adam Alexander. I think he got Steve Letarte to come with him, right? Like that'll be exciting to see.
It'll be interesting to get used to all the different broadcasting things we have now this season in NASCAR. We got a new broadcasting landscape. I think it's always good when you add in more names to the equation. It, I think, creates kind of subsidiary competition. We have new networks signing on. It also speaks to the broad appeal of NASCAR. Networks want to sign. They know that NASCAR has TV ratings, even if you say that it's not the same as it was in the mid 2000s, which it's not, but most sports aren't either. Football is dominant in America, but NASCAR continually has millions of viewers every single week, and that's way more than your average regular season, baseball or basketball game. And NASCAR has that appeal. TV networks see it, and now we're into the era where streaming is becoming more prevalent, and that's why you got Amazon Prime. Very excited to see what we have for that. But now, while we're on the topic of Rockingham, let's talk about the racing some more because we had the fuel mileage in both races. That's what I talked about. We had, a taste of some old NASCAR in a sense. We had battles for the lead. We had probably the two best. Well, I don't want to make it too big of an opinion, but two of the best on track racing products. Cars that can drive up to each other have less an effect of dirty air on them as compared to the next gen. And it poses the question, Rockingham would love a cup date, but are the cup cars worthy of racing at Rockingham? Because
No.
look what the trucks and Xfinity cars did, Chris.
The so you the
Cur-
the uh, the
Hey,
vehicle
you're lagging, Chris. You're
just
All right, try
oh,
again.
you got me.
Yep,
yeah.
Okay,
that's all right.
bunch uh, a track and
Chris,
most of, like
eh,
All right. Every time that you finish
Er,
and we say, all right, you're lagging, then it comes back. We'll give you, you get 3 strikes and you're out. All right. One more time.
All right. A lot of these guys have, like you guys have said, have not raced this track before. So it's just such a unique challenge with all these drivers trying to race at a new track, trying to learn the truck series and promote themselves to higher standards.
I like that you slow down the talking so your internet picks it up, and it worked that time, so we heard your
yeah,
point. And yes, it's a good point you bring it up because I think the Cup guys would love to be racing these Xfinity cars every single weekend. And we saw moments with the Xfinity cars at Rockingham and trucks too, where I mean, I said it. You can drive up to people, you can pass them. We saw a battle of track positioning, but good battles. These drivers had to fight the racetrack while fighting each other, and the cars and trucks weren't holding them back that much. And that's what you love to see out of racing. On top of all of that, we got fuel mileage. Both these drivers and trucks and Xfinity, to your point earlier, Marcus, had to show off their best fuel saving skills. That's what you love to see in a race there at the
yeah.
end.
I know the fuel mileage. The Xfinity series, it was a little worse than the truck series because at least the truck series they weren't close enough together for it to be a crapshoot. Xfinity, it was just like everyone typical fuel mileage, people running on restarts. I mean, we saw it early on with like Sam, like later in the race, Sam Mayer ran out of fuel and it caused Zilich and Jeb Burton to spin. By the way, damn good saves by those guys. I don't know how they didn't crash it, but then it just caused a chain reaction of just crashes on the backstretch there. So, like, we saw the good side and the bad side of fuel mileage, I think, this weekend.
You know, think I saw the stat. It's updated because I forgot of the number. Maybe you can remember it, Marcus. You seem to remember these things. Truck series, they have the longest running string of races
21 races now, I think.
without overtime finishes. Is that right?
I
I mean,
believe it's 21 races now, so almost a whole year worth of trucks are 23 year season or 23 race seasons.
yeah.
I believe we're about 2021 now. So we're about a year's worth of truck racing without overtime. I think that's honestly amazing. I don't know what's the next truck race. You remember, Zach?
I always forget. It's not Talladega, of course. They'll race that in the fall. I can pull it up in a matter of
Hey
seconds.
Siri. Okay, I have a camera on, so Siri won't work.
But the trucks,
Yeah,
they are next at Texas.
Kansas, Texas. Oh, Texas. Honestly, like the last place I remember in overtime in the truck series, I think that might have been the last overtime was either Nashville or it was I think Kansas.
Yeah, it was one
One
of
of those
those two.
two.
Because if it's been almost a year, yeah, I mean, but the Truck Series, they come a long way from that Phoenix finish a couple years ago in the finale. That shit shoot, and it's crazy to think that
Yeah,
they're the
yeah.
standard for limiting overtime finishes, Chris.
I
But
still love comparing. I still love comparing with that race. How I left work at 6 o'clock, went home, showered, and I got to the track at the time that Christian Eckes was finally doing his burnout. That's how long that race took.
yeah, it was not. We like to deposit that from our memories, and everyone's come along from that. Carson Hocevar, who was involved in that, broadcasted the truck race, and
Well,
Chris, I want to give you a chance to chime in on this before we wrap up our Rockingham topic because we saw how the Xfinity cars and the truck cars reacted to Rockingham. Do you think Rockingham is just a track that just brings out the best in stock car racing? I guess is the way to put it.
I definitely say that for an oval, it's definitely a racer's track. Like you mentioned, how unique it is, and just the shape of it, and it being a short track, it's definitely the best product that we've gotten when it comes to Xfinity and Truck Series. And you guys also mentioned the fact that will we ever see Cup come to Rockingham? And does Cup even deserve Rockingham? And one thing that I think of that I couldn't really let go is the fact that Rockingham Speedway, when they came back this year, you mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that they had removed the turns 1 and 2 seating. And I wonder what the capacity of Rockingham Speedway is right now. I don't know if it's cup worthy. Maybe it's just perfect to be sat at for the trucks and Xfinity series. Definitely will help them and the teams save costs and money, add another unique race date while still being within an hour away from home. But back as of 2012, when the Truck Series last ran there, it was recorded at a 32,000 seating capacity for Rockingham. But that was with the Turn 1 and 2 seating. And let's say compared to North Wilkesboro, which is now seated at 24,000 capacity, that holds a cup date, but it is also only right now the All-Star date. So I wonder what that takeaway will be.
I've got a
I
couple
think
questions to pose to you guys here, and before we wrap up Rockingham, number one, would you rather have Rockingham kept on the schedule or North Wilkesboro, Marcus?
definitely gonna say I don't know, Rockingham for sure. If I would say both. Get Texas out unless they fix the track somehow. I think the best way to fix Texas is actually turning that into either Texas World 2.0, which if anybody doesn't know what Texas World is, it was the stepping stone to Auto Club and Michigan's creations. It was exactly like those tracks. So either make it Texas World 2.0 or just put an Amazon warehouse there. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'd say I'd keep Rockingham though. Crazy racing, nonstop. Even in the last Cup race there, it put on a banger, and I don't know. It's really unfortunate what money does to these kinds of tracks.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think with Rockingham, so if you remember, Wilkesboro was kind of a test run. No renovations or nothing was made to Wilkesboro until after the first year, where they saw it was successful. Rockingham was successful. I think we will see new renovations, meaning more seating comes back, meaning better facility overall. And I believe if I'm correct, it's a NASCAR owned track, correct?
I couldn't tell you for sure. There's something that allowed it to come back because it had bad
It
ownership before.
it is owned by Rockingham Properties. I thought it was being partially funded by SMI, but SMI only owned it post 2004, and that's when they closed it. So I'm assuming they sold it since then, and it only came back because the Speedway in 2021 received $9 million
Mm-hmm.
from Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina. So
And that's
that's kind
why
of what helped the renovations and lead it to its date return.
Mm.
And not only Rockingham got that, but North Wilkesboro got that, and that's what brought Wilkesboro back. And Charlotte also got a little cut to help improve their facility.
Yeah, I think that was actually what you can consider as a cause and effect of COVID that allowed to these tracks coming back. When you look deep into it, we're not going to talk deep into it, but I'm pretty sure that it was relatively as a result of that. Had COVID not happened, I don't think the tracks would have returned. But I wanted to give you, Chris, a chance to offer an opinion. If you had to choose one, and we're not saying that NASCAR has to choose one right now, but would you have North Wilkesboro or Rockingham? Because they're both in the same state, and we already have Charlotte in that state as well.
Mm, I think it's just a driver preference or just company preference. Rockingham is its own entity, but North Wilkesboro is owned by SMI, so I feel like it'd be easier for North Wilkesboro to be slotted in as it is currently. Um, for me, the most ideal picture would be Bristol Spring losing its identity, give that date to Rockingham, make it a point state, and then bring the All Star race to Rockingham.
Yeah.
Or uh,
I have a I have a cool idea for that actually. What if Chris, we did lose audio from you, by the way. Let's
hello.
see.
Just at the end
Okay, you're
there.
back.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah,
Okay.
just at the end. No, so I
I, di- I
think what
didn't.
if we go ahead.
I didn't remember if I said it correctly. I thought I heard myself say Rockingham twice. I meant to say Bristol Spring, point state becomes North Wilkesboro, and then that All Star date becomes Rockingham.
So I have an idea, and it involves taking those three tracks or rearrange like a little bit of the season. Leading up to the Coke 600, have Rockingham and have North Wilkesboro. And we have the Carolina Triple Challenge, and basically, if you can sweep the whole, so treat it like the Triple Truck Challenge, basically, right? If you win one of those dates, you get about, I'd say, $300,000. If you get the whole challenge done, you sweep all three races, you get 1 million or something like that, 1.5 million total.
That's one way to kind of combat the oversaturation of a market argument. And it's not just the fact that you got a bunch happening in North Carolina, there's a bunch happening in that part of the country. Virginia, Bristol, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. That's a very there's a lot happening right there, and it is NASCAR country, and the fans are showing up as a result. There's not one track in that part of the country that gets terrible attendance, and so you want to reward the heart of the NASCAR fan base, but it's like this is what I'll add on this conversation as we wrap up, get towards the end of our Rockingham talks here. We have this Cup car of next gen that just has a very bad short track product. So we bring it back to North Wilkesboro, and everyone loves that North Wilkesboro's return, and Cup cars have yet to put on a good show there. What you did have is trucks come to North Wilkesboro, and they've been decent. I'd love to see Xfinity come to Wilkesboro because Xfinity is arguably the best racing car in NASCAR, at least the top three series. Anywhere it goes, it can put on a good show with good drivers. We saw that at Rockingham, despite a bit of a wreck fest. And trucks were good at Rockingham, but I'd love to see Xfinity at Wilkesboro. I think you bring Xfinity to anywhere, they can make a track good. And even Chicago Street Course, people had doubts about Chicago Street Course the first year it ran. Xfinity cars went out there and they showed what Chicago Street Course can be. So it's like, I feel like Cup cars could do decent on Rockingham, but we all seem to share the same opinion. It would be maybe a letdown, and we don't want to risk that because we had good shows from Xfinity and trucks. And I'm gonna leave it right there. I think Rockingham, and it's partially because of Cup just not being as good at short tracks. I think Rockingham is a little bit better than North Wilkesboro as it stands. I think Next Gens have a better chance there, but I don't think Next Gens are worthy at the end of the day.
I do have one more thing to add. This is about a little incident during the Saturday race. I think you guys know which one I'm about to talk about here. Whose fault do we think it was? Like, do we think it was Catherine Legg, or do you guys think it was Sawalich?
I think Catherine Legg was going. Oh, she was slow. She was off the pace, but she was doing her
Mm-hmm.
job. I mean, and any racing nowadays, you have lap cars that are slower than the fast cars at the front of the pack, and you just naturally have cars that are off the pace a little bit. Boy, I mean, go watch ARCA if you want to see cars that are off pace. What
Yeah,
makes the
but
difference, though, is that lap cars know how to mind their P's and Q's. What I saw there in entering turn one at Rockingham was Catherine Legg relatively minding her P's and Q's. She left the inside lane open, didn't leave it wide open, but left it open. That was still, not late in the race, so she wasn't having to just completely park it out of the way and just kind of be an afterthought, but she was letting them get the inside. And I think William Sawalich might have had a misjudged corner entry with Catherine Legg being up there off the pace. So William Sawalich could say, yeah, if she wasn't that far off the pace, I could have been able to calculate my entry better. I would have hit that bottom. But Sawalich did deviate off the bottom and I think ultimately ran into the back of Catherine Legg. Sawalich could have got around, but it's easier said than done when you're not behind the wheel of a race car. That bottom was open though, Chris.
Yes, indeed, that bottom was open. You saw multiple drivers ahead of Catherine Legg actually pass her in that exact same lane that she was using. And I think it just boils down to like two inexperienced drivers just coming into contact and making collision. You had more experienced drivers already pass her on that supposed open lane on the bottom beforehand, and Sawalich just had the wrong line, the wrong entry speed, really wrong place, wrong time. It's not, and I won't put it 100% on Swalach either, just because he does bring up a point that the pace was just unjudgeable. When he is committed like that, he cannot just all of a sudden slam the brakes and make everything fine and dandy. That contact was just almost inevitable.
All right. Uh,
yeah,
I
and
got Axel in the chat here. I want to say a hi to Axel, and I want to pose this question to you guys as we put it into our Rockingham discussion. And I'll actually flip back to you, Chris. This is the question. What do you want to see from Rockingham going forward? How do you want to see it further involved with NASCAR in the future?
Well, I want Rockingham to continue its strive for identity. We already have the problem that you mentioned of possible oversaturation from NASCAR and where Rockingham's role is within the sport now. I do see it staying within the sport with all the renovations and money that is put into it. Maybe it's just destined for an Easter weekend Xfinity Truck Series runabout. But what role will it play? What is NASCAR's stance? Because NASCAR themselves has kind of backed themselves into a corner because at one hand they want to grow the sport and reach new markets. But on the other hand, since COVID, they've kind of regressed and uh, happened to oversaturate themselves back into that southern North Carolina, Virginia market. We've already seen problems with the short tracks before the Gen 7 where fans weren't showing up to Bristol Spring, Martinsville, Richmond when it had two race dates, and that was just uh, good short track racing, but the fans just weren't showing up when they were also pleading for more short tracks. And then we also have NASCAR getting rid of Auto Club in Fontana, Southern California. That's a huge market for them. And with this Gen 7 car, the entire point of it was for NASCAR to go out and say, we could build a car that could go out anywhere like Chicago Street Course or LA Coliseum short track and put on a show. And where they want to take this market, that's why Garage 56 was introduced. They ran it at Le Mans. That's why they're trying to go to Brazil now. And I just wonder what the stance is. You got the southern market, their core fans, of course, are happy, but how can they maintain that and also grow the sport?
Yeah, well said. And Marcus, I'm curious what your thoughts are. What do you want to see from Rockingham in the future of NASCAR?
Well, like Chris said, they're gonna renovate that track a lot, and I think really we're gonna see a lot of good things come from there in the future. Hopefully, we can get a Cup day at some point, but before we get a Cup day, I mean, obviously, I want to see the Cup car fixed. So right now, just stick with Xfinity, stick with trucks. Let the if the Cup guys want to come race Xfinity and trucks, I say let them. I don't see I don't see what the problem is. I mean, I know they intentionally put it in the dash for cash, I think, so Cup guys couldn't race, but that's about it, really.
Yeah. Hey, here's what I think. I think you got a situation where, not a situation, but just a happenstance where NASCAR is giving pure and nostalgic NASCAR fans what they want. And you gotta love that kind of approach to it. They have worked hard to bring back now multiple tracks revitalized and into NASCAR once more in a new capacity. North Wilkesboro, Rockingham, and they've tapped into a different side of NASCAR fans with trying to venture out with Chicago Street Course. What I like though is that NASCAR is kind of keeping a balance. At the end of the day, if you want to, I think you could throw out the oversaturation discussion at least as it stands now. When Trucks and Xfinity are new right now going to Rockingham and say that's good. That's a necessary first step to bringing back another track, at least in some capacity. Maybe Cup racing is not in the future of Rockingham from a certain standpoint of oversaturation, among other discussions. But you have a good situation here where you have a good NASCAR track. Often the purest NASCAR fans don't mind going to a truck or Xfinity race, especially when Gen 7 arguably does not match up to the racing quality of those lower series. So I think Rockingham has a place in NASCAR, especially when it's in North Carolina because it's closest to where all the NASCAR teams operate out of. And I love to see it in the future. Looking forward to what the schedule has next year. That's going to wrap up our Rockingham discussion here on this Monday evening. Axel chimed in on this. He said he was happy Rockingham is back. And NASCAR, he thinks, should try to experiment older tracks using the lower divisions for possible return, going back to what I just spoke of. It's a good perspective from Axel. And, you know, it, it's interesting to see what could come of that. But Marcus, I want to toss it to you. You brought up a good segment idea for this episode 11, and
Yeah,
are we I don't have the percentage, but we're like what 2 months into the season now. I think
we're
past
about
a
we're
fourth
about
in.
like yeah, about a quarter of the way in. So I was basically gonna use this to go through the rookies, see how the rookies are doing this year.
Mm,
And unfortunately, we have to start out with the Cup Series, the absolute mid off that's going on for the rookie of the year. There's no other way to put it. It's just a straight mid-off. So you've got Riley Herbst and Shane Van Gisbergen going at it. Riley Herbst has Rookie of the Year by 3 points right now. Anyways, moving on to the Xfinity Series. So let's see. I'm just pulling up the points here. Maybe I should screen share really quick.
If you can.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just screen share that really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so here's the Xfinity standings. I wish there was like a rookie section here in NASCAR. Highest in the points right now, surprisingly, is Carson Kvapil. And with how much bad luck this guy's had, I'm really surprised to see him there. At the top of where he is, above Zilich as well, even. So great job by Carson Kvapil and Zilich so far. Those two are putting up expectations. They're exactly where we expect them to be. Sammy Smith, who got like he got 50-point penalty, right? After his shenanigans.
Yeah, something in that ballpark.
He would be second in points if he didn't do that.
So does he
by the way.
does he get the win at Rockingham after the Jesse Love DQ?
Yes, he won. He's the winner, but RCR did announce
Yeah.
they are appealing that. So
You'll probably
after
see that result
Zilich,
Wednesday.
yeah, Wednesday's when they usually do it. So anyways, we gotta go down here a little bit to the next rookie. The next one being Daniel Dye. Honestly, a pleasant surprise. I did not have him being the highest called car on my bingo card, but it is a pleasant surprise. He's been doing pretty good this season compared to what we saw in the Truck Series. I mean, the only reason we knew about him in the Truck Series was Michael Waltrip glazing him. But he's done pretty good so far this year. Same thing with I'm gonna glance over Taylor Gray for a little bit because we kind of expected him to do good. What is Dean Thompson doing in the top 15? Like,
Doing
I
a
feel
damn
like
good job is what he's doing.
the last couple weeks, I mean, dang, in the Truck Series he sucked. There's no other way to put it. He sucked. I mean, he had one good race that I could remember, and that was I think Charlotte last year. He got second. This year he's in a completely different car than what trucks are. These cars take a lot more talent to drive. Maybe Dean Thompson's actually talented, and he just didn't have a good series to race in. Because trucks are more aero dependent than they are driver dependent. So maybe we're actually seeing something good out of him. I mean, it shows on here he moved up 3 positions from 18th last week. He's doing a damn good job. I'm gonna give him props. Every week, I feel like the last few weeks, I've seen him running somewhere in the top 10 or 15. I also won a Rockingham stage. Christian Eckes has been pretty disappointing. I'm not even gonna lie. I expected a lot more from him based on how dominant he was in the Truck Series, and I feel like Colleague's just down right now. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Eckes has not had exactly the momentum we need from him. Dropped 2 positions last weekend. Nick Sanchez, again, he also dropped 2 positions. He was a front contender at Rockingham until they brought him down the pit road for to check that a wheel was tight, and that just ended his day pretty much. Back to Taylor Gray. The results he's gotten does not show the speed he's had this year. He's just had horrific luck, whether it comes to getting full send at Martinsville or just whatever, getting caught up in other people's stuff, really. He had a decent finish at Rockingham. Unfortunately, Jesse Love got to, what's his name, Sammy Smith. And what we saw a lot of Rockingham was actually like you get up on a guy's bumper and you take the air off from under them and you get them loose. That's what we saw happen to Sammy Smith. Almost got up in the Taylor Gray. So yeah, he could have had a win, but I mean, just stuff like that happens. We gotta go down a little bit more. Shout out, but he's not a rookie, but shout out Brendan Poole. He's been crazy so far the last couple of weeks. Who's next? Sawallich, man. Oh gosh. He would be the winner. He would be the winner of Arca Breaks Weekly.
Yeah.
If it was still a thing. Who else we got? I know we got a couple others here. Is Chris Wright? Is he technically a rookie this year?
I don't know. It's confusing when you get down to this part of the Xfinity standings. Who's a qualified rookie and who's not?
Yeah, like I think I'm pretty sure Chris Wright, I think he's a rookie if I'm remembering correctly. His only memorable highlight was full sending Josh Bilicki in the pits.
Hmm.
That's about it. And then we get down here. These are all like the part-time guys and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Who you most impressed with in Xfinity rookies?
I'm very impressed with Dean Thompson.
I
Very
I
impressed.
would agree.
He is completely outdone. I think like I just kind of glanced over him when I think we were talking about rookies at the beginning of the year. I glanced over him, and now look at him. I mean, for all we know, he could actually, if he strings together some more performances, he could be one of the underdogs that makes the playoffs. He could do it on points if he has some good enough runs. I mean, Charlotte's coming up. That was a good Truck Series track for him. I wonder what we see from him in Xfinity there,
Maybe some more
right?
stage wins.
Really quickly, if we want to highlight some more people here, Ryan Sieg again runs great. Brandon Jones has been impressive the last few weeks. Climbed up to sixth within the last few weeks. Won in the Matt Kenseth car. Harrison
Is he
Burton as
the
well.
highest Toyota?
Yep.
Yes, he is. He's the only Toyota in the top 12 right now, actually.
He's really resurged lately. I mean, he's had trouble getting going in his Xfinity career over the few years that he's been in it, but now he's back with JGR and he's making the most of
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, and I mean, you really saw with him. He was good at Gibbs, and then you know who wouldn't go if you get the opportunity to go drive for Dale Jr.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't take that, right? And I see why he took it.
He had a
That just wasn't.
number of bad luck instances with JGR or Junior Motorsports, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I was surprised he was even considered back for JGR, considering he wasn't really fond of Ty Gibbs.
Yeah.
So
I think he has good
really
sponsor
good,
funding too.
really good to see him doing good. And really good job, Harrison Burton. I mean, he drove that 20 before, making AM Racing actually look good, unlike the driver they had last year. All right, on to the truck. Anything else you guys would like to highlight, Chris or Zach?
Well, Axel is chiming in once more. He said he doesn't like, he's mad, as a matter of fact, how JGR just puts some rich drivers into ARCA, gives them the strongest cars by 2 seconds, and then just sends them straight to Xfinity. He doesn't like that. It's like it
And
sets them so well up for success that it's disappointing when they actually have to compete harder.
And the thing is, it's really disappointing that William Sawalich is behind Matt DiBenedetto, who is not in a good team at all.
Mm,
It's even more disappointing that he's behind Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola has 4 starts this year. You know how many Sawalich has? He has 10.
yeah.
That's terrible. I forgot Parker Retzloff actually DNQ'd a race this year. He's behind Almirola too by 1 point. He got second last week,
Yeah.
which as a Kyle Busch fan, I will say as a Kyle Busch fan, I am biased against him. I'm kind of happy he didn't win just because I'm still sour over Daytona. All right, down to the Truck Series now. Oh, Tyler Ankrum is up to third in points. That's crazy, actually. Let's see. I forgot who the truck rookies are. I know Ruggiero's one.
And it gets tougher when you get to trucks too, to
Yeah,
remember
I
that.
know Ruggiero's rookie. Uh, Andres Perez, he's a rookie. I believe Mozak, is he technically a rookie? I know Dawson Sutton's a rookie. Tony
These would
Bridinger's a
be
rookie.
great Tyler Sage questions.
Think
Where
Ruggiero,
where's
Andres
Tyler Sage?
Perez.
I'm gonna really quickly see if I can go.
Is Connor Mosack a rookie, I think?
Hold on, I remember where I. Let's see.
Tony Breidinger, Frankie Muniz.
Shoot. Give me 1 second, Zach.
Well, while you
There's a
guys are
there's
pulling up
there's an entire
the
rookie list actually here in the tune-up chat from like around the first episode.
What were you going to say, Chris?
while you guys are pulling up the rookie stats, I was gonna cut back to that topic that Axel brought up that you mentioned about the JGR camp with their ARCA program and seemingly putting drivers into Xfinity and then rushing them up in the Cup. I feel like one driver that you could probably name drop, Ty Gibbs. I feel like that's more of an oversimplification of what happened. I feel like that's slightly degrading towards the driver ability. We saw Ty Gibbs dominate in the ARCA series you could say that was equipment, but you also saw Ty Gibbs win a championship in the Xfinity series. And the era of competition that we're in now, especially with the playoff system, to go back to back like that, it's kind of unheard of. And we saw Ty Gibbs completely change generation of cars straight into the Gen 7 Cup. And his first year there, he didn't even do a bad job. I almost anticipated that he was going to win within his first year. And I think it's kind of just being overshadowed by his slight slump at the end of the last season and at the start of this season. But he's on a good upswing, and I just wouldn't really count a driver like that out.
And he started with some commendable performances, subbing for Kurt Busch in Gen 7. I think it's neglecting to scapegoat Ty Gibbs in this situation, but it does feed into that conversation that Axel brings up. Ty Gibbs is talented. This is not a point of, well, Ty Gibbs is just the perfect example of why this is bad. No, Ty Gibbs has talent. He showed it in Xfinity. On top of dominating ARCA, he really did good in Xfinity and won a championship. And now he's just slowly but surely trying to find his way in Cup. It's still too early to call him a Cup bust, but it's in play. Like a JJ Yeley perhaps, but Ty Gibbs has shown the talent. And there is a little bit of nepotism there, just because of his family ties and stuff that's given him these opportunities as well as sponsor funding. But Ty Gibbs has talent. It's not a full just nepo ride, and he's shown it.
Yeah, I really do want to note really quick about one more thing about Xfinity. Every rookie except for Sawalich is in the top 20 in points over there.
Mm.
And Sawalich has like one of the best cars. So that's he's shown he has speed. I cannot deny that.
Yeah.
He's just gotten himself into incidents and like I mean, for example, ARCA breaking the hell out of Zilich at Bristol and then his incident with Catherine Legg. I didn't even get my thoughts on that. I think that was mostly on Catherine Legg. And my reasoning is she comes from GT racing, she comes from IndyCar, right? Both of those series, I believe IndyCar has blue flags too, right?
Yep.
Yep. So typically, she should be, of all the people in Xfinity, she should know the most the importance of respecting the lead lap cars, being out of the way. And as someone who does iRacing, I can see where Sawalich is coming from. You can't. The job of a lap car is to be predictable. Nobody could have predicted that she was going to be 20 miles an hour off the pace. So I do put that mostly on Catherine Legg. I mean, there's nothing, I don't think anything Swalch could have done there to avoid that. And it's really unfortunate. It kind of ruined the whole biggest story of the weekend.
Yeah, well, Casey Kane was unfortunately caught up in that, yes, so it's
Yeah.
tough. And everyone has different opinions on that incident, but Catherine Legg has more opportunities upcoming. We'll see how she kind of adjusts to this, but she was adamant that she was not at fault for that either.
The Daily Downforwards actually reported today. I'm kidding. It's the Daily Downforwards, not Force. So anyways, I found the rookie list that I actually wrote at the beginning of the tune-up show. It was Breidinger, Ruggiero, Andres Perez, Connor Mozak, Christian Rose, and Frankie Muniz. So looking at the points here, Ruggiero is the highest in points, obviously. I mean, he's done pretty good all year. Then you've got next up Perez. I mean, he's had some bad luck, but I think there's potential for him to do good there. Connor Mozak, he's actually, I mean, he's on par with the Truck Series champion. That's pretty good of him, Let's see, we gotta keep going down. I forget. Did the list say Sutton? No, it did not. I'm surprised Sutton's not a rookie. Did he run too many races last year
I
to be
thought
considered one?
Dawson Sutton is a rookie, not gonna lie.
This is why we need rookie stripes, NASCAR. This is why it should be
I agree.
required.
Yes.
It's really stupid that they took that requirement away because it just ruined a lot of things now. Let's see. We need to talk about why is Tony Breidinger, who is in a Tricon truck, why is she on par with a Rion Bros truck?
I mean, I want Tony Breidinger to do good, man. I don't. You want these, suppressed.
You want women in motorsports to do good, but like the problem is, and I think a big problem is mainly just funding for them, right? Tony Breidinger brings Raising Cane's money, which I don't even know if she has the Raising Cane's money anymore. She brought Raising Cane's money to this team. And even at super speedways, there's really nothing to show for her. I mean, she's done 7 starts. Frankie Muniz has a top 10 this year. Let's see. Frankie Muniz has a top 10. Why does Tony Breidinger not have a top 10? You know, it's ridiculous to say that. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I think the best, I will say, I'll give my opinion. The best female prospect right now, I think we have in NASCAR is Isabella Robusto, I think her name is. She's nearly won an ARCA Phoenix race. And that's pretty big considering, you know, the closest that we've really seen, like the other women who've done ARCA recently, Natalie Decker, Haley Deegan, their most successful results came at Daytona. So I think it's actually pretty big that she was able to put that up at a Phoenix race of all places.
Well, Haley
Uh,
Deegan won somewhere in the lower ARCA levels. I
she
forgot.
won in the K&N series at
K&N. Yep, K&N.
yeah, she won at one of the dirt tracks. Was it the Vegas dirt track? No, what was it?
I thought she won at a paved short track.
She won
It
at
was paved.
Meridian. She won Meridian, but then she won somewhere else. Both of which she had to move someone for, by the way. But
The point I want to
yeah,
make from that, though, is that you got to let these drivers get to the NASCAR National Series before actually grading them because they can do these good things in NASCAR's feeder series to the National Series. But until you get to the National Series, it just seems to be different nowadays, and
mm-hmm,
it's hard to translate that talent, especially when we see some
yep.
people just go from ARCA to Xfinity, too.
I think honestly, like Frankie Muniz for what he's given, I think Muniz is actually doing a pretty good job for
Yeah,
what
I
equipment
agree.
he's given.
You don't hear
What
anything bad
Tony?
about Muniz this season.
No, I mean Muniz. I mean, granted, for 45 minutes he finished 11th place and then got promoted to 10th. Um, like let me just give you like a example, right? Tony Breidinger has done 7 races. She's behind Bailey Curry, who's done 5. Actually, we don't have many guys like up in the top whatever that have done like less races.
Shout out
But
Bailey Curry.
yeah, Bailey Curry's done 5 races. I mean, he's got a top 5. Where did he get a top 5 at? Do you guys know?
I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe it was Daytona.
Like Luke Fenhouse has done 5 races and he's almost on par with her.
Bailey
Where's
Curry.
Christian Rose? Christian Rose was listed
Curry
as a
might have
rookie.
been a top 5 at Atlanta too. I'm just throwing it out. I'm trying to remember what I saw in the stands.
Curry was top 5 at Atlanta. You're right. Curry was top 5 at Atlanta. He it was mainly like from what I remember listening to PRN, it was him, Friesen. I know Kyle Busch, my goat, he was up there. Um, all I really remember is he was like in the mix, and then Kyle Busch, with all the talent in the world, just beat Friesen straight up. Yeah, no, I don't know, man. I mean, that GR Toyota commercial, you guys know which one I'm talking about.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
them saying she's one of their hottest prospects, I just that's incorrect. Like they need to, if they're gonna market stuff, they need to market it more
Well,
accurately.
she is a marketable figure. That's why
I
Raising
mean,
Cane sponsors her.
I guess she's a hot. I guess she's a hot prospect in some other way, but not racing wise,
Yeah.
right? I guess you could say that.
Yes. All right.
So
That's a good look
that's
at the rookies, Marcus. And
Xfinity is definitely the best one to
yeah,
watch though,
yeah,
this
yeah.
year by
It
far.
is. It'll be probably down to the wire. We'll have multiple rookies make the playoffs, but I want to move on.
Anything you want
And
to add, Chris, really quick?
yeah,
Nope.
Okay.
let's if you could, one of you screen share the new Hall of Fame ballot as we quickly
Yes. Let me
offer our
get that
opinions
back
on
up.
who we'd like to see selected this go around.
Okay, give me 1 second.
It was announced today that new
All
names
right,
getting
hold on.
added to it.
Just give me 1 second. All right, so here we go. So NASCAR announced that their 2026 ballot is here. This year we have Randy LaJoie getting added, as well as, hold on, where is he? As well as Kurt Busch. Chris, I know you like that pick, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think we're 3 years removed from Kurt's final win.
Mhm.
Axel called me freaky just now, by the way. Yeah, no, we're like 3 years removed from his final win. We're in the point now where Kurt Busch is a Hall of Fame ballot driver, which is crazy to think about.
With
I think he's easily first ballot. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Randy LaJoy, which this is going to be kind of referring to a comment Corey LaJoy made, a guy that made a career out of racing Fridays and Saturdays. So well done to him to be on the ballot. Anyway, so here's the modern era ballot. So we got Greg Biffle. He is a NASCAR Truck Series champion as well as an Xfinity Series champion at the time Busch Series. You got Neil Bonnet. You got Harry Gant, Harry Hyde, which for those who don't know, he is who Harry Hogg in Days of Thunder was based off of. Jeff Burton's on there. You got Kurt Busch, and you got Jack Sprague, who is a multi-time truck champion. I don't know much about Tim Brewer, and I do not know much about Randy Dorton. If somebody here could fill anyone in.
I
Our
can't.
Pioneer ballot, you've got Jake Elder, who is a new ad for that. Larry Phillips. You got Ray Hendrick, Bob Welburn, and Banjo Matthews. And then for the landmark ballot, this year they added Humpy Wheeler, who was a big promoter for Speedway Motorsports back in the day, if I remember correctly. You've also got Lisa Franz Kennedy. You've got Alvin Hawkins, Les Richer, and Dr. Joe Mattioli.
So let's make some picks here. I think if we were official voters, we'd get 2 from the modern era, 1 pioneer, and 1 from the landmark. And
Well, I don't know if landmark is to the public. That might be purely
Yeah, landmark's
NASCAR
voters only, I
promotion.
think.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If hypothetically, if we were voting here, who would we pick? And I guess Marcus, do you have your thoughts?
So Kurt Busch's first ballot, easy. And then the second pick is pretty hard because for me, it's between Jack Sprague, who was one of the Truck Series pioneers back in the day. He was always, I mean, if you go watch old Truck Series clips, you can hear his name in Rick Allen's voice, I feel like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My other pick is Greg Biffle, not only because of his Truck and Xfinity Series accomplishments, as well as his Cup accomplishments, also his impact that he's made off the racetrack as of recent. Even yesterday on like Easter, he flew a helicopter over. So the Easter Bunny could drop a bunch of eggs for kids who are not really well off after all the hurricanes. So Greg Biffle, even after the hurricane, he's still doing a lot of charitable acts. I think it's really going to come down to him or Jack Sprague, surprisingly. My Pioneer ballot, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't really know who really any of these guys are on the Pioneer ballot. I don't really know. I'm not going to say anything for that. I don't want to really. I mean, Humpy Wheeler is the only guy I for sure know. If I remember correctly, I don't know. I don't think Joe Mattioli was the one that came up with safer barriers, so I don't want to say that for sure. Humpy Wheeler is the only one I know though, but I'm not going to give an opinion for the landmark ballot either.
All right. I'll go next. I'll take Kurt Busch, first ballot, champion, multiple big races, won, and a advocate of NASCAR as it stands even after he's been done racing. And then, like Mark said, it's a tough second pick, and there's a lot of worthy names there. I will take Jack Sprague. I think you have to be very careful to not just have a Cup Series lens on this voting ballot. And Jack Sprague would be my second modern era pick. I'll take Larry Phillips from the Pioneer ballot, and I'll take Humpy Wheeler from Landmark ballot.
I just want to see what Harry Gant's trending for.
Chris, do you have
Yeah, he's on the
picks?
Hall of Fame ballot.
I'm just trying to double check my sources. All right, first
Okay,
ballot
so Chris
pick
had
off
time
the
to research.
bat. Kurt Busch. I'm surprised he wasn't on the ballot earlier. I feel like he is NASCAR's one of the most decorated drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series. Had an outstanding career. Was one of the last active Cup drivers to race alongside Dale Earnhardt. When he was still alive. Won the inaugural Chase Championship format beating out Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson early on. Uh, did very well in the short track community, winning a lot of races at Bristol. Won with all four manufacturers, besides, I guess, at the time, if you want to throw Pontiac into the mix. But one with Chevrolet, Toyota, Ford, Dodge. One with numerous teams and more or less elevated each team that he went to. Each team that he raced for either got better along his tenure or after his tenure. Um, with Roush Fenway, Penske, Phoenix,
Did they get better though?
Furniture Row. Well, Kurt Busch was probably the height of Phoenix racing.
I mean, he almost won. I believe he almost won
He
Sonoma
almost
that
won
year with them.
Sonoma. He almost won Sonoma. That would have
And
been
then he ran the
huge.
Talladega Nights car at
Yep.
Talladega, but that didn't go well.
Just,
And then he got in trouble at the Falldega race as well.
but he is just a character that NASCAR might not have wanted at the time, but definitely needed. And just an unbelievable turnaround for him in the second half of his career when he started racing for Stuart Haas Racing. That kind of ushered in the one win a year standard that many Kurt Busch fans know of. And then continued on to Chip Ganassi Racing and had success there and elevated that team until they were ultimately sold to Trackhouse. And then after that, he moved on to 2311 Racing and just really laid the foundation for the 45 team. Got Jordan Brand's first Cup Series win, I think in their inaugural showing, and kind of more or less led NASCAR and inadvertently pioneered whatever Gen 7 safety upgrades there were post his qualifying wreck past Pocono.
As, I liked how you put it. NASCAR didn't know they needed Kurt Busch at the time, but they ought to be grateful for it after it's all said and done now.
And then for my second modern era ballot, I'm gonna go with another new entry, Randy LaJoy. I think that would be a big win for the weekend warriors out there. That just more or less race because they have a love for the sport. You don't have to be at the top tier of everything to just have a good time and put it out there and leave it all on the track. Pioneer ballot. I'm gonna be honest. I did not get any time to research any of these guys, so
Do we want to
I'm just
research
gonna.
the Pioneer ballot really quick?
No, it's
Yeah,
alright.
if you, yeah,
Don't worry about
but
it.
I won't put in a statement for that, but I'll put in a statement for one person in the landmark ballot. I'm gonna go with Les Richter. Um, it looks like he was part of NASCAR, was an advocate, or not an advocate. What was the specific phrasing? He was head of operations for NASCAR and the president of the Riverside International Raceway, and I believe he ultimately became the vice president for California Speedway when that was the name of it in Fontana. And for me, that's personal, a slight personal connection, just because he is someone that was assisting and emphasizing the need for NASCAR and its motorsport in the Southwest region.
Alright. That is some good analysis on your pick, especially the Kurt Busch one. We're about at the end of the show. I do want to toss it to Marcus before we make our Talladega race picks. Marcus, you want to talk about your thoughts on F1 over the weekend?
Oh
You
yeah,
can
so I was the only one
you
here
can
that
end the
watched
screen
it.
shares, by the way.
Oh yeah, let me go ahead and do that. So basically, the F1 race made Bristol look entertaining. That's all we need to know. I'm gonna say Verstappen getting pushed off track and getting penalized for it, I think will now encourage him to just wreck anybody that forces him off now, and that's going to be a lot more dangerous. So it feels like the FIA are just kind of opening Pandora's box with that. Like, to be honest, I hope he kind of does. I kind of want to see how that goes because if the FIA are going to penalize you for not causing an accident, I mean, they've just they've just become crazy about it. And even worse is Verstappen couldn't even give a comment on it because Mohammed bin Sulayem, he implemented a rule that drivers are not allowed to critique steward decisions. So he did not critique it because he's not allowed to.
All right. I'm not going to try and add on anything to that when I was unable to watch the race. If the same goes for you, Chris, we'll move on to Talladega race pick.
I do have an opinion
All
on
right.
that. Like Marcus said, it does open Pandora's box for how the FIA are going to officiate and how the drivers are going to race to avoid contact and damage and just ruining their race in general. But I will say, I believe Piastri was ahead at the apex, and it was ultimately sort of the right call, but it was just an untimely decision or untimely folding of events for Max Verstappen just because, of course, he shortcut after being sent wide, but he wasn't ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, at some point, he would have had to give it back. But I feel like Max Verstappen ultimately was going to try and fight for it. But if it wasn't for the wreck with his teammate behind that brought out the safety car, then that penalty might have not incurred. But since that safety car did come out, then that's the decision that the stewards put on Verstappen and kind of what hurt Verstappen's race.
Yeah, and I think I want to give like another opinion on it. I hate the whole I was ahead at this apex or I'm ahead at that apex or I'm behind at this apex. I don't think that matters. I think in racing, the only time that should matter is the only time a corner is actually yours should be when you're the only car that is entering that corner that is on that apex and you're ahead fully of the guy behind you. If a guy gets alongside you, it is nobody's turn. It is fight to the death for that position. That's how I view it. And
I completely.
I was talking to some people about it the other day, and I mean, I heard a dude say, that's why I like NASCAR because in NASCAR you just put them in the damn wall and go on,
I
I
like that you
completely agree
guys.
with Marcus there. I did see a tweet on Twitter where someone was saying that they just hate how the sport of F1 has come to, where it's just
Yeah.
the drivers really crying on the radio and waiting for an ultimate decision, whether it's track limits or whatnot. They just really, like Marcus said, they really hate the thought of the driver's mindsets now, where it's I'm ahead at the apex, this is my corner, so I have the right to use the entire corner, versus a contact sport like NASCAR, where if you're side by side, you aren't expected to give that corner just to attempt the corner. You're going in side by side, and whoever is taking that better is coming out on top.
You guys remember, I think it was 2022 Indy Road Course NASCAR where Kyle Larson lost control and rammed into Ty Dillon? Did he have
Yeah.
rights to the corner in that instant? Yeah,
He was ahead at the apex, technically.
that's
I
a
mean, yeah,
yeah, it's a
that's like, yeah,
microcosm.
that's, I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. Hey, really quick. So we were just on the Hall of Fame topic. I want to give a really controversial opinion here, or a really controversial question. And I know Zach's going to absolutely love this. Do you think we can make an argument that Austin Dillon should be in the Hall of Fame?
No, we can't. Next, so let's move on to Talladega race picks.
I think I could, honestly.
We are not going to do that.
Nationwide champion, truck champion, Daytona 500 winner, Coke 600 winner. Big wins, championships. I think he's a Hall of Fame pick.
But did those wins really elevate the sport?
I mean, he won 20 years after the 3-car won at Daytona.
The Daytona win set the sport back very much, and
He was the only
gosh,
Chevy winner for like 7 months, I think.
I really hate that you brought that up because I'm gonna start thinking about that.
That's exactly why I brought it up. And for those who don't know, Zach hates Austin Dillon. He did appreciate the gift. Who put the Austin Dillon sticker on your car?
I don't know.
Uh,
There's still remnants of it
Unconfirmed
though.
source.
That residue is forever there. Sticker
I
residue.
tried. For y'all's information, I tried. I was picking at it, trying to get any residue I could off with my fingernail.
The only
There's a lot.
safekeeping to this conversation of Austin Dillon is at least we know Joey Logano will be a first ballot before Austin Dillon ever will.
Joey Logano is the first
That's
ballot Hall of Famer. Yes,
I
he's
like
got
Kyle
more
Busch is like
championships
a
than Kyle Busch, right, Marcus? Joey Logano.
well, you see, so Joey Logano has never won a championship while being first in the points at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in reality, so if there was a Winston Cup format, the closest Logano would have ever come was actually 2019, and he would have lost by like 2 points to Kyle Busch or whatever.
Not the same rules apply to all the drivers. It's not like the rules only change for one
Yeah.
driver.
You
Well, if you
drive
think about it,
differently with
so
full season
hear me
points.
out. You do drive differently. This is just hypotheticals here, but Kyle Busch would still be a two-time champion theoretically in 2018 and 2019. So you can argue that he deserves to be a two-time champion. He just didn't deserve the years that he won his championships.
Hey, we can make a whole episode about that. I mean, that conversation has been something that's been around since NASCAR went away
That would
from the
be
full points.
that'd be a fun episode actually to have.
We're going to move on to our Talladega race
Oh yeah.
picks. And Cup was off this past weekend, and the show is also going to be off the Monday following Talladega, but we do have a chance to make race picks for one of the most anticipated races of the season, whether you like it or not. Talladega is up next. It's due up, and you can pick just about anyone. And I'll give Chris the floor to make race picks for this first. Two winners, one underdog, and you get one pick per turn.
I'd have to pull up my fantasy real quick if you want to head it to Marcus.
All right, go ahead, Marcus.
Okay, so you could really throw Penske in there, like all three, in theory, but I don't want to throw Penske in there because, quite frankly, I never see any Penske cars at the end of those races. They're all like up front in the stages and whatnot, and then they either cause the big one or they get caught up in the big one that they caused. You know, like the teammates got caught up in Logano's big one. I think I'm gonna pick. So I'm gonna say Kyle Busch is one of them. He's a Talladega Next Gen winner. For a while at Daytona, he had the best average finish ever out of anybody there in the Next Gen. Actually, no, he was tied with Bubba Wallace. Still a great average finish at Daytona. He's a contender the last 2 years in Talladega races, but twice he tried to make a third line and never worked. Let's see. So he's my first pick. I'm gonna throw Ricky Stenhouse in there. He and Hayek Motorsports, they have a lot of momentum. I think they're
Hey, you get one pick per turn.
Ooh. I
wait.
will say with
Wait,
this
it's only one
Talladega,
pick?
yeah,
One.
one pick per rotation.
So
So
we're still doing three. It's just one per turn.
Mm-hmm.
yes, I feel
Okay, my
like
bad.
with this Talladega pick, it's so much harder just because the pot is bigger when it comes to drivers that would be you'd consider dark horses or not. Like on a normal weekend, you would probably consider like a Michael McDowell as a dark horse, but he's done well at super speedways. He almost won the spring race, and just a plethora of other drivers that, just given the circumstance, they have good rides, they have good cars, especially coming into the weekend. Since the start of the season, you'd arguably say that Ryan Preece would normally be an underdog, but he's been performing well. I don't know if you could really say that. But considering we're only on our first part of the picks, I'm going to go with a Bubba Wallace. He's due for a win. 23-11 has been on the up, except for on the short tracks, though Bubba Wallace did have a good run at Martinsville, so maybe these bigger super speedways will play into his favor.
I really wanted to snatch up Bubba Wallace, and I think I was going to go that direction, but I have my backups, and Brad Keselowski is off to a subpar start in 2025, but he's always a threat on these super speedways, and has come close to winning multiple super speedways with Next Gen on top of his super speedway resume already in his Cup Series career. He almost won spring last year. Came up inches short, as a matter of fact, at time of caution to Reddick, relatively, and with Reddick, McDowell spinning in front of them. Keselowski almost won the 2022 500. This is just talking about what he's done in next gen at super speedways, and he has one next gen win to his credit, a Hall of Famer. Brad Keselowski is, but I always look out for his name at the super speedways. He is my first pick for Talladega. Back to you, Marcus.
Okay, so I'm gonna use him for this one because he doesn't really Actually, no, I'll save him for the underdog pick because he is technically an underdog. You know, Michael McDowell hasn't really. I mean, Chris was talking about him earlier. I like McDowell on these tracks as long as he doesn't really kill himself at the end of the race like he did last year. I think he has a good shot. I think he just needs to play it smarter. He has a good Spire group behind him. He's been pretty close to playoff contention all year. So this is really, I think, if he does good in this race, he's a playoff threat. If he wrecks, then I think that's going to be it for him really this season, because that's about what happened last season. He wrecked at the end of Talladega, and then he just never really
Mm.
had a great rest of the year with front row. Over to you, Chris.
Um,
I love how
I
you
gotta
just
go with a safe bet. Normally I'd pick my driver right now, Tyler Reddick, but I think divine circumstance allowed him to win in the spring, and he's been up there in super speedway racing, but it hasn't been noticeable to where you could say he charges to the front on his own. I feel like when it comes to Talladega wins, sure, even though it does mix the pot up and can provide upsets, I doubt you could name one winner that was really a backmarker. And Talladega winners kind of almost produce more Talladega winners. So I think a safe bet would be Ryan Blaney. I feel like he's due for a win here in 2025. He's been doing well. Multiple setbacks throughout the season, though, stopping him from securing those good runs, those good finishes. So that'd be a good turnaround for the 12 team, I'd feel like.
Yeah, due for Winton would be an understatement for Blaney. I'm partially disappointed I overlooked him with my first pick, but he's literally always a threat at Talladega, no matter what car. Literally every single race, just about. That's a good pick. My second winner pick for me, I'm looking at some somewhat overshadowed names, and so I'm not going with a top-heavy list of winner picks right here. I went with Brad Keselowski, which, that's a good driver career-wise, but he's off to a subpar start. He doesn't have that many wins, just one with next gen really. And for my second pick, I'm gonna go with Austin Cindric. He's been up front on these
oh,
super
Ooh.
speedways, and yeah,
you
I
got
mean
close.
he I think he was leading when the big one happened at Talladega Fall last year. He is, Daytona 500 winner. Austin Cindric, I could just imagine him winning it right now. You got the two lanes going, no more than two, and he's got that track position, and he wins by like half a car length over the outside lane. I could see
if
Austin Cindric doing it.
if he
I
doesn't
thought you
get
were
shot in the backstretch again.
right. Speaking of the guy that actually was it Keselowski or was it Stenhouse that killed him? It was Keselowski. I got him on the backstretch. Yeah. So I saved him for my underdog. I was going to mention him earlier. Ricky Stenhouse is I guess we could classify him as an
But
underdog.
but is he an underdog though? He
Yes.
won the last
Okay.
Talladega
Just
race.
just because he is a
He's
four-time
won
Super Speedway
Daytona
winner,
and Talladega in what, 2017,
in the sense
2018?
of in overall NASCAR, he is an underdog. Okay. That's I think what we're going for. We don't care about
Who was your first two picks?
Kyle Busch and Michael McDowell.
Hmm.
Mm. When's the last time they won?
Kyle Busch on June 4th, 2023 at approximately like
Ooh,
6 Eastern, I think. Uh, Jimmy Johnson's
maybe
last
he's
win
the
was on
underdog.
June 4th of 2017, by the way. So our drivers both share the same last win date for right now until Kyle Busch wins this year. Um, yeah, Michael McDowell's last win was on pure talent at the Indianapolis Road Course against Chase Elliott. No, yeah, I'm saying Stenhouse. I mean, Hayek Motorsports, right? We didn't expect them to do good. Stenhouse is top 20 in points with them right now. Like he's doing really good with them. So I mean, I'm really excited to see what he can do the rest of the year with them.
I'll allow it.
Especially 2023. I mean, we saw him with JTG Doherty. He still would have made the playoffs even without the Daytona win that he had. He did really good that year. And even then at like Bristol, I mean, maybe the cut line wasn't close, sure, but I feel like everyone who was below the cut line at Bristol that year was throwing punches at the end. Stenhouse was one of those who went down fighting. And I think this year, I think I could see him making round of 12 run in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what he does on Sunday, as long as he doesn't kill the field and himself like he did at Daytona. Yeah.
round of 12 run is bold, but you make a good
Hey,
point.
wait, is Atlanta in the playoffs this year?
No,
No.
Oh shoot.
they got
You know what?
superseded by New
Anything can
Hampshire.
happen. Anything, yeah, put restrictor points at New Hampshire. We'll be fine.
They already did that once, so it wasn't very good.
I mean, that was like the last time someone actually led all the laps. But then again, William Byron almost did it without restrictor plates. So
True.
All right, Chris.
For my underdog pick, I'm gonna go with someone that I've touted on the stream before, and that is Ty Gibbs. If we're gonna talk about due wins, he is in need of a due win, I'd say. Especially this season. I feel like if he doesn't win this season, then there's definitely a problem on the horizon for him. He's gone longer than JJ Yaley in the JGR Cup car without a win. And he's not a driver. The reason I say he'd be an underdog is because we expected from him. He has not won yet, but I can't see him as a driver in Talladega to go out there and command the field. I feel like it would take some luck for him to find himself out front at the end of the race.
Hmm. I'm really happy with my underdog pick I'm about to make. It's Eric Jones, and Eric Jones has shown prowess at Talladega before, and nearly won the first next gen race there in the 43. And now, Legacy Motor Club is still kind of like an awkward situation with how they're performing, but their highlight of the season was Daytona for both of their drivers, and Eric Jones is one that I trust on super speedways with his experience. I think he'd definitely get it done as an underdog. Give me Eric Jones for that spot. And we are going to watch it closely. We are off on Monday the 28th of the month. No show that night. Please enjoy Talladega. Please enjoy your week and enjoy the weather getting warmer until we are back on in May. I'd like to thank Marcus Vanderlee, Christian Herzog. I'm Zach Tefelsky. We'll talk to you soon. This has been episode 11 of the Tune Up. Take care.